So I see a lot of children asking for ma'am PU1 chapters, ma'am PU1 chapters. So here it goes. Yesterday one was already been released, that is Animal Kingdom, and now today it's Body Fluids and Circulation, and both of these chapters are really important chapters of your PU1. So in PU1, if I'm saying it's important, that means in KCET it is surely going to give you 1 or 2 questions at least for sure. Okay, that is what I mean by important chapters of PU1, because you know PU2 has high weightage. So PU1, if I am taking something in priority, please you also go in order of that particular priority. These are fun chapters. So we completed Animal Kingdom. I hope you got it. Obviously there are so many terms involved, but somewhat other way, because I repeated so many times, probably at least something might have got faded in your head. Now we have Body Fluids and Circulation. This is one of my personal favorite. You will get to know why and things like that. And here I have made up a little bit of addition. So I have taken the help of ChatGPT to make these things more fun. Obviously I would be the person delivering it, so I don't know whether it will be fun for you to remember or not, but I'll try my best. So I'm wishing and praying that you all understand everything that I teach over here, and if you understand, definitely let me know in the comment section. Okay, that is why we have a comment section for you to ask doubts, and also for you to tell the feedback of whether you are understanding or you are not understanding. Either way, I'm going to get happy, my dear children, if you interact with me, because that is my policy. Okay, I like interacting. If you have seen my videos, I definitely reply to your doubts and also correct myself if I see something wrong. So I want, it should be not a one-way thing. Okay, it should be a two-way thing that we have over here. So you are my students, I am your teacher, but beyond that we are good friends who do not judge each other for asking any sort of doubts. Okay, make sure it is study related. Yeah, now going ahead, we have blood. Okay, so the name of this chapter is Body Fluids and Circulation. So how does things circulate in our body? Our body is like a river. Our body, basically in our body, the blood vessels are there, and in blood vessels, river is there, my dear. River is flowing, and on this river, my dear children, small boats are also floating around. Well, these small boats are what? Nothing but the cells, and the river that you see is nothing but the plasma. So your blood can be divided into 2 parts, that is plasma and also the cells out there. So plasma, how much percent of it is plasma, my dear children? 55% of the blood is plasma. What are we left with? 45%. And what will be that? Obviously 45% will be what? The blood cells which are involved, the red blood cell, the white blood cell, the platelets and things like that. Now if you just focus on this 55 and think, what is this particular plasma made up of, ma'am? So basically 90 to 92% is water, because hydration is what? The key. So 90 to 92% is water. What about 6 to 8%? It will be protein. So we have 3 very important proteins in the plasma. One is the one that you probably already know, that is globulins. Globulins, immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin G and things like that, IgA, you know, antibodies. What does antibodies do? They fight against diseases. So basically globulins are the one that fight off germs, like what? Superheroes. The second thing that we have is fibrinogen, about which you are going to study in this particular chapter. It is one very important component of blood clotting. So for example, we get a small cut. If the blood goes on, what will happen? We will die off, because we need blood, my dear children. It transports lots of things, right? So obviously we need blood. So for clotting, we definitely need a very important protein, and that is fibrinogen. How it works and all, I'll tell you. So it's your body's band-aid. Okay, and now the third thing is albumins, about which you have studied probably for the first time. Yeah, so albumins are the one that maintains the osmotic balance. They are like sponge. They take in the water and says that come here guys. So basically in between the cells, just imagine that apart from blood vessels, in between the cells there is water flowing out. So we do not want flooding over there. So what we do, if we do flooding over there, there will be inflammation, my dear children. So these albumins call out the water and say, come here, you have to stay over here. So that is the role of albumins. It maintains the osmotic balance, and apart from that, it helps in the transport of certain hormones and things like that as well. So we have 3 important proteins. I hope you got it: fibrinogen, globulins and albumins. Apart from that, you have bonus ingredients also in your plasma, that is certain minerals, for example, sodium, calcium, you have magnesium, bicarbonate ions and chlorine ions. 2 of them are negative, all of them are positive. Okay, and blood version of electrolytes, that is in bracket. Yeah, nutrients, apart from that you have certain nutrients also. Please make sure you remember these names. Okay, so over here the sodium, calcium, you know it's there everywhere. Sodium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, calcium, magnesium and bicarbonate ions and chlorine. Okay, now nutrients are what? Glucose, amino acids and lipids. Always on the move. They would be always in the plasma membrane as well. It's not plasma membrane, oh my god, plasma. Okay, fun fact. Plasma minus the clotting factors is equals to, what do you call this as? You call this as serum. Plasma minus the clotting factors, you call this as serum. Please remember the names of these guys, very very important. It is glucose. Okay, glucose makes up carbohydrates, amino acids makes up proteins. So carbohydrates and proteins are done, then we are left with lipids, so lipid will also be there. Okay, and please remember the name of these ions and these proteins. Done? So we are done with the plasma. Now we are going ahead with the next thing, that is red blood cells. So here I have made more, what do you call, a serious version of the notes, and here it is the other version of the notes which you can refer to if you want a fun way of remembering things. Okay, so first blood cell, my dear children, it's RBC, but before that I have written something over here, that blood consists of formed elements, elements, okay, and that is 45%. Basically the cells I was talking about, you call this as formed elements, and that occupies 45%. It is suspended in plasma, which is occupying 55%. The formed elements include what? Red blood cells, white blood cells, and the platelets. Okay, now the red blood cells, what do? They are the oxygen transporters. Why, my dear children? Because a red blood cell would be having what? Hemoglobin. And you know hemoglobin is a protein, heme and globin. Okay. Now in each heme you have 4 heme. Okay, you have 4 heme. And so basically in each heme you would be having an ion. You would be having an ion over here, and these ion basically attach to what? Oxygen. That is the good thing about ion molecules. So basically, can I say that hemoglobin, which is there in the red blood cell, helps in the transport of what? Oxygen, my dear children, which is why I'll call them as oxygen transporter. I hope that's clear. Now going ahead with the next thing, count. That is very much important. It's 5 to 5.5 million per millimeters of blood. Okay, 5 to 5.5 million per millimeters cube of blood, millimeter cube of blood. Okay, now production site, where do you think RBCs are formed? RBCs are formed in the red bone marrow. Inside the bone marrow you have yellow and red marrow. Then the red bone marrow is where your RBCs and all the other cells are being formed. Structure, if you talk about it, it's bioconcave in shape, my dear children. It does not have a nucleus. So the RBC says, if I have everything, then how will I transport oxygen? I need space for carrying hemoglobin pigment. Okay, so basically it says I don't want nucleus also. I do not want nucleus. So I'll say it is enucleated. Okay, it is what? Enucleated, does not have nucleus in most of the mammals. Okay, that is why it has more space for oxygen. Now function, you know, it transports oxygen and carbon dioxide with the help of hemoglobin. How much hemoglobin is the normal amount? We usually have 12 to 16 grams per 100 milliliter of blood. These terms are really important, and this is how KCET people ask question as well. Okay, how much? What is the normal? 12 to 16 not milligrams, just grams. Okay, 12 to 16 grams per 100 milliliter of blood. Lifespan, after 120 days, the poor RBCs have to say bye-bye. Where does it go? It goes to the spleen, because spleen is known as the graveyard of RBCs. Okay. Now, if you revise in the, good manner, it looks like this. So, most abundant blood cells, because they are most abundant blood cells, please remember that. And because it is up to 5 to 5.5 million what? Per millimeter cube. Remember, now made in the red bone marrow. Nucleus, nope. In most mammals, more space for oxygen, that is why they do not have. Why red? Because thanks to hemoglobin, hemoglobin has the iron, and iron gives the red color, my dear children. And how much is the normal amount of hemoglobin that we have? 12 to 16 grams per 100 milliliter of blood. Now job is to transport oxygen and CO2 like a pro, and lifespan is basically 120 days. It is destroyed in the spleen, aka it is known as RBC graveyard as well, also known as, that is what you mean by aka. Now going ahead with the next thing, that is WBC. Okay, now WBC, they are also known as leukocyte with a C over here. It can be K also, either way it's the same thing. So they are immune defenders. What is their count? It is just 6,000 to 8,000 per millimeter cube of blood. That is comparatively very less than what you studied as of now for RBC, right? Now function is to, you know, it's to protect the body from all the infections and the foreign invaders like me and you. And now types, you have two types majorly. One is granulocytes and the second one is agranulocytes. So granulocytes would be having certain granules filled with certain enzymes. in the cytoplasm, whereas agranulocytes do not have this. But in actual sense, both of them have it. But initially, when all the cells and everything were discovered, we had sort of small microscopes. The granules were not visible, which is why they were put under agranulocytes. Okay, so we still follow that. So granulocytes and agranulocytes are there. Granulocytes are the one that have granules in the cytoplasm. Now over here, there are different types of granulocytes and agranulocytes being mentioned. You have to know which one is abundant, which one is not. So which one is the most abundant WBC? If it is asked, it will be neutrophils, which is a granulocyte, my dear children. It is 60 to 65% of the whole leukocytes. It is phagocytic. That means if you and me are standing over here, it will take in all things. Not you and me, basically small, when something foreign comes in, my dear children, it will take those things inside the cell. Okay, it will engulf and destroy the pathogen. Please remember neutrophil, even though it appears to be neutral, but basically they are making a judgment and probably going to kill. So basically it's neutrophil, that is 60 to 65%. Please remember the percentage as well. Match the following question have come. When I will be solving question, I will be showing you that question. Now eosinophil, it is just 2 to 3%, okay, and E, allergy, IgE, all of it is related, my dear children. In allergy, you have IgE antibodies being released, and it is the eosinophils that plays a very important role. You might have studied about mast cells, that is totally different, but yes. So eosinophils have 2 to 3%. It combats infection and allergic reactions. Now you have basophils. You have what? Basophils or basophils. It is 0.5 to 1%, which is lower than eosinophils as well. Now by this percentage, you understand that they are the most least leukocytes that we have in our body. What do? They release histamine, serotonin and heparin. Three very important things. Histamine, serotonin and heparin. Histamine basically helps in inflammation, or what do you call vascular dilation. The blood vessels become dilated if histamine is being released. Heparin is an anti-clotting thing, right, that you have. Coagulant. So it is involved in inflammation, and please remember it is the most least. So neutrophil 60 to 65, it is most abundant, and basophil on the other hand, it is the most least, and it is releasing histamine, serotonin and heparin. These three products are also very important. Question have come. Okay, now talking about agranulocytes, no granules in the cytoplasm. So you have two, one is monocyte, the other one is lymphocyte. Monocyte, my dear children, 6 to 8% is there. It is again phagocytic in nature. It destroys the microbes. For monocytes, you get macrophages, about which you have studied, right? Probably somewhere you might have studied about macrophages. So where do you get macrophages from? These monocytes are the one that will be giving rise to macrophages. Okay, so they are also phagocytic. You see over here, this is phagocytic, and neutrophils are also phagocytic. Now talking about lymphocytes, is 20 to 25%. Okay, just after neutrophils, I can say this is the thing that has is there in more amount. It includes the B cells, the T cells, which play key roles in immunity. The B cells production helps in what? Antibody production. It is there for humoral immune response, if you have studied in human health and disease chapter, yeah. And T cells are helping in cell-mediated immune response. Basically, they tell the other cells that something has come, you have to do something about it. So they are kind of messengers, okay. And B cells basically finally release the antibodies and kills the antigens out there. So this is how things work. So on this particular slide, first thing that you should be knowing is 6,000 to 8,000 millimeter cube. So this is how we can revise it. Okay, so the body guards 6,000 to 8,000 per millimeter cube, okay, aka blood, also known as white blood cells, the immune warriors. Granulocytes are grainy fighters because they have small granules. Okay, neutrophils 60 to 65, phagocytes eat the invaders. Okay, they are in most high amount. Eosinophils 2 to 3 fight infection and allergies. Basophils 0.5 to 1% releases histamine, serotonin and also heparin. Okay, and also heparin is not mentioned over here, I don't know why, but yes. So they are the inflammation squad. Now agranulocytes, they are smooth operators. Monocytes are there, they phagocytes, they destroy, they introduce again. And lymphocytes 20 to 25% is basically releasing the B and T lymphocytes, and they are the powerhouse of immunity as well. Got it? So that is about WBC. Going ahead with the next thing, that is platelets, my dear children. Now platelets are really important in the process of what? Clotting. So I told fibrinogen is very important in the process of clotting. Similarly, platelets are also they are cells. Platelets are cells. They are known as thrombocytes. Okay, they are known as thrombocytes. They are really important in the process of clotting. Remember, RBC is known as erythrocyte. Okay, WBC is known as leukocyte, and our poor platelets is known as thrombocytes. Okay, now over here the count is 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 millimeter per millimeter cube of blood, obviously more than the white blood cells. So white blood cells are less in number compared to both of them. Formation, it is produced from megakaryocytes in the bone marrow. From where? Megakaryocytes in the bone marrow. What does it do? It helps in clotting by releasing what? Clotting factors. Significance. What is the significance? Low platelet counts can cause what? Excessive bleeding due to lack of clots. So, if your body has less amount of platelets, that means you're more prone to losing more blood because it won't be doing enough amount of clotting which is required. So, please remember the number 1,50,000 to 3,50,000 per millimeter cube of blood, and it is produced from the megakaryocytes in the bone marrow. Okay, please remember all of these things. So, help in blood clotting, your built-in first aid that you have, and risk of, yeah, that's all. So, these are the three things. What are these? They are formed elements which occupies 45% of your blood. Rest 55% is what? Your plasma. I hope you are able to recollect all these things. Children, please do let me know if you are enjoying this video, okay? And now, obviously, there is no more point of enjoyment, but yes, I believe we should be enjoying and studying, right? It will be otherwise boring, yeah? Now, talking about the blood group. So, there are 3 blood groups in human beings, like me and you. I hope you are also human being. Yes, 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 you are. So, basically, my dear children, we have 3 antigens. Okay, there are 3 antigens. They are basically proteins. Now, depending on what antigen we have on our cell, that is RBC, my dear children, we say that we have A blood group or B blood group or O blood group. Okay, so people who are having A blood group, they will be having A antigen on their surface. Now, talking up not on their surface, on their RBC surface. Okay, now if you're talking about B, okay, they would be having B on their surface. If you're talking about AB, then both A and B would be there on the surface. If you're talking about O, they would not be having anything on their surface. Okay, they would not be having either of the antigens on the surface, which is why it is just O blood group. Now, my dear children, what do you think? Basically, for example, I am having A blood group. I am having A blood group. That means my antigens over here would be A. Can I have anti-A antibodies? Can I be against A, my dear children? No, I cannot be. It's my team member. You get it? So, basically, my body is going to produce what? Anti-B antibodies. Such that if someone else gives me blood, and that blood, my dear children, is probably from a person who is having B blood group. That person thought that I should be giving the blood, but he gave. And then I realized he is having B blood group. Will my body leave me like that? No, my dear children. The body will start fighting because it has anti-B antibodies. Please remember, it has anti-B antibodies over here. Now, similarly, if I'm a person with B blood group, okay, I cannot fight against with B, otherwise all my cells will be dying. Okay, so basically, I have to produce anti-A. I have to produce anti-A antibodies. Okay, now what about AB? AB, both of them are over here. I cannot produce A, neither anti-A, neither anti-B. Again, if I do produce anything, what will happen? Basically, I have all of the, my cells will be dying, and I do not want that. Since, because of that, I would not be having any antibodies against A or B. Okay, so there is no antibodies, nil condition is there. What about O? O does not have A, neither it has B. So obviously, it will be having both. Okay, it will be having both anti-A as well as anti-B. Anti-A and anti-B. Okay, now, which one of you think can be given to any person? Which one of you do you think can be given to any person? Any person it can be given. What do you think it is? It's not like in my cell it is there, okay? I have written anti-A, anti-B does not mean in my cell it is there. My body produces anti-A, anti-B, okay? It's just that. So basically, O blood group is one that I can give to anyone. Why, you may ask? Because it does not have any antigens. It does not have any antigens means anyone can receive it. Because if I give B blood group, to a person who is having A blood group, my dear children, I have anti-B, it will be killing that. You get it? I have anti-B, it will be targeting the B antigens. But over here, if I give O blood group does not have any antigens. O blood group does not have any antigens, which is why it can sustain in the body. Okay, so it is known as the universal donor. On the other hand, if we talk about AB blood group, okay, if you talk about AB blood group, since they do not have any antibodies, so I can basically receive anything. If I am a person with AB blood group, I can receive any form of blood because I anyways do not have what? Anti-A or anti-B. You get it? I do not have anti-A or anti-B, which is why I am a universal receiver. Okay, so if you do not have your security guards over here, you can receive anything. If you do not have the problem causing elements over you, you can be received by anyone. So you can be a universal donor. That is what it means. Okay, can be received by anyone, which makes you a universal donor. I do not want to make you confused. Anyways, O is what? Universal donor, and AB blood group is what? Universal receiver. It receives things. Okay, because it does not have the fighter people over there. Here there are no terrorists up over here, which is why all things are cool. Got it? So this is about the AB blood grouping. So blood is classified based on the presence or absence of antigens A and B on the RBC. Plasma contains antibodies. So where is the plasma, my dear children? The antigens are on the surface of the cells, but where is the plasma? Where is the antibodies? The antibodies will be there in the plasma. Just for understanding, I have written over here like that. That's why I said. Okay, so person who is receiving the blood cells would be receiving only the blood cells. That is what I meant. Okay, so you not have to worry about anti-A, anti-B and things like that. Now going ahead with mixing incompatible blood types causes clumping, agglutination, which can be really dangerous. It will lead to clots and things like that. Yeah. Fun fact, O blood group universal donor can give blood to anyone. AB blood group can be a universal receiver, can receive from any group. Okay. If this thing is clear to you, we can move on to the next thing that we have. So here you see the donors group also. So it can be A or O. A or O. A person with A blood group or O blood group can give blood to A. Similarly, B or O. Similarly, over here, AB guy can get from AB, can get from A, can get from B, can get from O. Why? Because it is a universal receiver. It can receive from anyone. O blood group, for that you need O. Okay, donors blood group can be just O. So it becomes, yeah. O blood group cannot be receiving any other blood group, that is A, B and AB. Why? Because it has anti-A and anti-B within them. That is why they cannot receive, so it has to be just O. Please remember that as well, okay? Which is why they can just act as a donor, they cannot be acting as a receiver. Fine. Now that is done. So going ahead to the next thing, that is RH grouping. So RH grouping, what do you mean by that? So RH factor is basically again an antigen, okay, that is found on the RBCs. Is again an antigen that is found on RBC. The people who have it, suppose I have it, so it becomes I'll say that I am positive, A positive, B positive, whatever is there. Tell me your blood group, my dear children. Okay, tell me your blood group, and then also tell me the antigens that you have on your blood cells, and also the plasma. In plasma, what type of antibodies are there? Then I will be sure that you understood the concept. So over here, okay, if you have RH antigen, we say that this person is having a positive blood group. If you do not have the RH, my dear children, we'll say this person has a negative blood group. That is what you mean by RH. So RH factor is an antigen found in RBCs. It was first discovered in rhesus monkey, which is why it is known as RH factor. Okay. Now people with RH antigen is known as RH positive. People without RH antigen will be known as RH negative or negative blood group. 80%, most of the human beings that we see over here, my dear children, are RH positive. What is my blood group? My blood group is A positive. That means I also have RH antigen on my blood surface. Okay, blood cell surface. Now RH factor and blood transfusion, how does that work? So RH positive can receive from RH positive and RH negative. Okay, for example, if I am positive blood group person, I can receive blood from this and also this, because anyway this has the RH, this does not have the RH, so I do not mind it. Okay, I do not mind it either way. Now RH negative can only receive from RH negative. So if the person, if I am negative, if I am having negative blood group, I cannot take a cell that is having positive. In that case, my body will show up, my body will be producing antibodies against it. Over here there is nothing to react with, which is why my body would not be reacting if I am positive. If I am positive, I can take both, but if I am negative, my dear children, I cannot take both. I need the one that does not have RH antigen. Please remember that. I cannot be taking the one that has the RH antigen, okay, if I am negative. So please remember, RH negative can only receive from negative, which is why we say negative blood group, it becomes difficult for blood transfusion and things like that. Now, if an RH negative person receives RH positive blood, their immune system gets activated and produce antibodies to attack what? The RH positive RBCs out there. It will kill them. Now, what about a condition where, suppose there is a mother, okay, there is a mother, she is RH negative. She is what? RH negative. But the child that she bears he or she, I'll take it as she only, so let both of them be she, okay, it is Rh positive. Okay, mother is negative, the baby which is there, it is positive. Now what will happen? So usually, my dear children, what is there is that we have placenta and everything, which is why our blood and everything is separated, totally separated. Now during delivery, what happens? There could be exchange of blood. There could be exchange of blood. In that case, what happened? The baby's blood would be going to the mother, and now in the mother's body, what will be produced? So Rh positive things have got into the mother's body, my dear children. In that case, the Rh negative mother, what will she produce? She will be producing antibodies. But it is safe for the baby because the baby had been delivered. While delivering, the blood has been released, which is why her body has been had produced what? The antibodies against it. The antibodies against it. And you know one thing, that the first time our body sees anything, the primary response will be very low. The second time the same thing happens, it will be difficult. So now, suppose the second time also the same lady having negative blood group has a positive blood group child. Okay, now this time, don't you think it will be a very big problem if by any chance from the baby the blood is being exchanged and the mother has already in her body the antibodies against this this positive thing is being there. So this time the second response will be way too much. There are chances that the fetus can die as well. This is known as, this condition where it is happening, it is known as erythroblastosis fetalis, a life-threatening condition, my dear children. Okay, you get it? Okay, so what do we do against it? What can be done to stop it? So basically, after the first delivery, anti-Rh antibodies are given to the mother. You do not have to remember this, okay? You do not have to remember this, just remember this. Anti-Rh antibodies. So against the antibodies, we are releasing something, that is anti-Rh antibodies. Against things, we are releasing anti-Rh, not releasing, we are giving antibodies such that they are not produced. So this prevents her immune system from attacking Rh positive cells in the future pregnancy. Now that is a risky factor. Even my cousin, even she got this particular thing. It was very difficult. The surgery was very difficult. You get it? So if an Rh negative mother carries an Rh positive baby, it is safe in the first pregnancy because the placenta keeps the two blood supplies separate. However, during delivery, some Rh positive blood from the baby may mix with the mother's blood. Okay, the mother's immune system creates antibodies against Rh positive blood. Now, the next pregnancy, if the baby is again Rh positive, these antibodies attack the baby's RBC, causing what? Severe anemia. Anemia is a condition where you do not have much amount of blood cells and things like that, yeah? Especially RBCs, yeah? So, severe anemia and also jaundice. Erythroblastosis fetalis is a life-threatening condition that you get from this. Okay, now after first delivery, how to prevent it? You give anti-Rh antibodies. This prevents our immune system from attacking what? Rh positive cells in the future pregnancy. I hope Rh grouping is also pakka clear to you. Yeah. Now going ahead to the next thing, coagulation of blood, and here comes the role of fibrinogen. I told you this chapter is actually very much interesting because you can relate to it. You will get to at least one point of your life, you will see all these things. Okay, so that is one very important thing. Just in your life, you might be seeing things around your life. So you will get to know, oh, I have studied this. Remember, Jasmine ma'am taught you this, okay? Yes. So, okay, it's okay even if you do not remember me, but at least remember the content. Fine. Now, over here, coagulation of blood. How does it take place? So, first we will read and then we will go ahead. So, first thing, injury occurs, okay? Some injury has happened. I was doing something and then I got a cut over here, okay? Here, not here. So, a blood vessel gets damaged, cut or trauma. Bleeding starts as the blood leaks out, yeah? Second thing, platelet activation. The platelets thrombocytes, my dear children, which has 1,50,000 to 3 lakh something thousand, okay, per millimeter cube of blood, which is there in our blood, my dear children. Those things get active, okay, and the platelets rush to the injury site like emergency responders. Now they stick to the wound and release what? The clotting factors. They would be releasing the clotting factors which I was talking about. Now the third thing happens, formation of thrombin, key clotting enzyme. And over here calcium is required. Please remember, in the clot formation you need calcium. So calcium is required as well. So platelets released clotting factors, Okay, the platelets which came rushing, my dear children, they release certain clotting factors, and now these clotting factors are going to activate a very important enzyme, that is thrombokinase. Thrombokinase enzyme, it is an enzyme complex, okay, thrombokinase. Now what happens, the calcium ions are essential in helping the thrombokinase convert prothrombin, inactive, into thrombin. So we definitely have prothrombin also in the blood, my dear children. This prothrombin gets converted into thrombin with the help of what? Thrombokinase, and here you would be needing calcium ions. You would be needing calcium ions, okay. And apart from that, obviously, what activates this thrombokinase? You need clotting factors as well, which you get from the platelets. Cool. Now, the thrombin is active. What will the thrombin do? The next thing, fibrin formation. Oh my God, ma'am, so many things. Yes, I know there are so many things, but it will be really helpful for you to understand this. Now, the thrombin, along with calcium, acts on fibrinogen. Remember the fibrinogen in the plasma? Soluble proteins in the plasma. Fibrinogen is converted to fibrin, insoluble thread-like network. So fibrinogen, which is there, my dear children, it is soluble. It is soluble and it is there in the plasma. But now this thrombin guy, what did it do? Thrombin, with the help of calcium ions, my dear children, it converted the soluble fibrinogen to what? Fibrin, which are what? Insoluble. Which are what? Insoluble. So it got converted to insoluble thread-like network, my dear children, that is fibrin. Now, fibrin threads form a mesh that traps what? The blood cells, creating a stable clot. Okay, the fibrin threads which are there, it will form a mesh. It will form a mesh, my dear children, and it will basically trap the blood cells. In this mesh, if you trap the blood cells also, it is going to create what? A clot over there. This is how clot happens. So every time you get a clot, my dear children, you see this much work our body is doing behind it. So to sum it up, I'll just quickly revise everything. Listen to me really carefully. Fine. First thing, a cut happens. When the cut is there, platelets will be coming. Oh my God, what happened? What happened? Now the platelets, when they come, they are going to release clotting factors. So clotting factors are released. What these clotting factors will do? They are quickly going to activate the thrombokinase enzyme complex. But the thrombokinase says that I need calcium ions also for getting activated. Finally, with the help of thrombokinase and the calcium ions, the prothrombin which is there, a protein which is there, it is getting converted to what? Thrombin. So prothrombin is inactive version. Now it is getting converted to thrombin which is active. Now this thrombin, what does it do? It again calls calcium ions, hey come, we have to do some other work. That is, it converts now the soluble fibrinogen into what? The insoluble fibrin. And this fibrin is going to create a mesh-like thingy where it is going to call upon all the cells. It is going to make it clot together to form what? A big stable clot. I hope you understood this, yeah? So clot seals the wound, the fibrin mesh hardens into a scab, and the clot stops further bleeding and protects the wound. Slowly, wound healing begins. Over time, the clot dissolves and is replaced by what? A new tissue. This is how things work in the case of clotting. Works, and with the number of platelets I told you, I do not want to confuse you. It is 1,50,000 to 3,50,000, not 3 lakh, not just 3 lakh. So don't tell me, ma'am, you taught us wrong. Okay. Coagulation is blood is done. Cool. I am enjoying teaching this. I hope you are enjoying learning also. Now comes lymph. So we spoke about blood. So blood is a very essential part which helps in what? Transport of things. Apart from blood that we have, we also have something that is known as lymph. What do you mean by lymph? So basically, I'll tell you something. You try to understand from that. So you have your arteries. Arteries are the one that carries blood from the heart, away from the heart. So from the heart pumps the blood obviously, so arteries would be under high pressure. So arteries will be breaking down into arterioles, my dear children, and these arterioles basically are going to be much more thinner, forming the capillaries. So these are the chunnu capillaries. I am going to make one capillary over here. So all the capillaries that I made was an utter disaster, so I had to make it again. So suppose this is a capillary that I have. This is another one, and slowly these capillaries, my dear children, come together and they form venules, and then you have the vein as well. Now over here, if I zoom it in, how does the capillary look? So capillary has small pores, okay? They have what? Small pores that you can see over here. And over here, who is passing? The blood is passing. The blood has what? The plasma and the formed elements, that is WBC, RBC as well as your platelets. So what happens is that the plasma, it oozes out. So where are the capillaries? First thing, where are these capillaries supplying blood to? The internal tissues, the cells and things like that. So this capillaries are going between the cells and releasing what, say, oxygen over there. So it is helping in the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide over there. That is how diffusion happens, right? So over here, it's between the cells. What is happening is that because of the high pressure from the arteries, my dear children, the blood is coming with high force. But since these capillaries are really thin and they have pores, what will happen? The plasma and everything will ooze out. So over here you will be having plasma content. Over here you will be also having WBC, white blood cell. Okay, plasma plus WBC. Because WBC, why WBC? WBC are actually big cells. Then how can they come? Because WBC is basically, they can change their shape. They can actually change their shape. So they kind of squeeze out and come outside. Okay, RBC and all do not come. They cannot change the shape like that. So basically they move around like that, even platelets. Okay, so what happens? Just the WBCs and the plasma and also certain pathogens which are there in the blood, they also come out. Now what will happen? If this particular fluid stays here itself, obviously they cannot go inside because it is under high pressure, things are going. If this particular fluid stays here itself, what we'll get? We will be having inflammation, my dear children. We will be having inflammation. So we do not want that to happen. And this fluid is now known as interstitial fluid because it is between the cells. You call this space as interstitial space, or you call this fluid as interstitial fluid, or you basically call this as lymph fluid. Okay, you call this as lymph. Now this lymph is being, obviously you have to carry it back. Why? There are two main reasons. First, if it stays here, it will cause inflammation. Second, if you are taking things out of the capillaries, my dear children, the blood pressure will be reduced over here, and if you do not have enough amount of blood pressure, the blood won't be moving forward. Get it? So that is not very much good option that we have. So basically the lymphatic capillaries which will be there would be carrying this lymph fluid back and giving it to a vein, because veins are the one that carries blood towards the heart. You get it? So this fluid, my dear children, is known as lymph, and with the help of this also you get lots of things transported. I'll tell you one very important fun fact about lymphatic vessels is that, you know, in our small intestine we have blood vessels and also lymphatic vessels. The bunch of the lymphatic vessels that we have over there, you call it as lacteal. You call this as lacteal. So the blood vessels which are there, you know, in our food, when the food breaks down, you get amino acids, you get glucose, and you get fats also. So glucose and amino acids can be taken up easily by the blood vessels with the help of the capillaries and everything. But what about the fat? The fat cannot be taken in because they are big things. So who takes in the fat? And fats are also equally important. We need fat in our body. Otherwise, we need fat in our body for insulation, for basically having cholesterol being made. Cholesterol is a good company. There's good cholesterol, there is bad cholesterol. We need cholesterol for the formation of plasma membrane and things like that. So basically over here, the lymphatic capillaries are the one that is going to take in, absorb what? The fat over there, and that is one very important function of the lymphatic vessels. Okay, so please remember, it's not just the blood that is going to transport a lot of things, it is also the lymph fluid which is also responsible for the transportation of a lot of things in your body. So lymph is tissue fluid, and what is tissue fluid? Fluid that leaks from the capillaries into the spaces between the cells carrying nutrients and gases. Larger proteins and blood cells stays in the blood vessels, such as your RBC and platelet stains in the blood. Okay, now how is lymph formed? Tissue fluid is collected by lymphatic vessels and returned to the bloodstream, as I told you. Once inside the lymphatic vessels, it is known as lymph. Now function of lymph contains lymphocytes, obviously. WBC, lymphocytes are there, and you know what, the lymphatic vessels, they would be having certain enlarged regions like this. You call them as lymph nodes. Lymph nodes have by itself a lot of lymphocytes, so the pathogens and everything that is coming inside, my dear children, they could be trapped over there. Okay, they are trapped over there, and it's really important for basically safeguarding our whole system. Okay, so it transports nutrients, hormones, and also waste, and apart from that absorbs fats through lacteals in the intestine. The lymphatic vessels keep the body healthy and nourished. These lines are really important. So do not think that the lines mentioned over here are not important. Straight from your NCERT, really important lines. From each and every line you will get a question. Okay, I'm telling you that. So please remember it. And it's not just larger proteins and blood stays in the blood. Okay, larger proteins stays, but the blood cells, larger ones can also move out, such as WBC, which have the snaking capacity to change their shape. Yeah. So this is about the lymph. I hope that is also clear. Please remember these 3 important functions as well. Can we move ahead? I hope we can move ahead. It's already 40 minutes. Now we are getting ahead to the circulatory system. Now things are going to get really serious, okay, but it's still going to be fun. You're going to understand, but you have to keep an open mind that yes, here ma'am is going to teach and I'm going to understand, okay. So basically circulatory pathway, there are 2. One is open circulatory pathway and the second one is closed circulatory pathway. Closed, you mean, for example, there are connections being made, none of there where leaking is not there, okay. You would not be having a leaking system. The cells are not directly taking a bath. So where do the cells enjoy the most? The cells are going to enjoy the most over here. Why in the open? Because basically the blood vessels are there, but they will be directly opening, okay. There will be open spaces which are known as sinuses, where the blood cells are going to have a bath of the blood, okay. So they are going to exchange their nutrients like that only. So which is why I will call this as an open circulatory system, okay. Where do you find it? You find it in arthropods and also most of the mollusk, okay. Some mollusks they have closed, but most of the mollusks, my dear children, they have open circulatory system like arthropods. I told you about that. And also hemichordata, they also have an open circulatory system. Yeah. Now closed circulatory system, where do you find it? You find it in annelids, that is worms, and also chordates. Blood is always circulated through a closed network of vessels, more efficient as the blood flow is precisely what? Regulated. Now the chambers of heart in vertebrates. My dear children, how many chambers do we have? How many chambers do we have? So according to me, we have 4 chambers. 2 of them over here and 2 of them over here. So 2 of them are known as atrium and 2 of them are known as ventricles. So this is the left atrium and this is my left side, yeah. So this is the left atrium and this is the right atrium. So this becomes the left ventricle and this becomes the right ventricle. I'll just give you a heads up of how things work. So we have our lungs over here and suppose this is the body parts. So basically what happens is that when I take in a breath, okay, I get lots of oxygen and the oxygen diffuses into the blood cells, and now this oxygenated blood is going to the left atrium. I'm going to change the color. It is going to the left atrium because left atrium is asking, oh, bring in oxygen. Okay. Now, oxygenated blood goes to the left atrium. From left atrium, my dear children, it won't go here because you have a septum over here. Separating these 2 guys, you have a septum over here. Here also you have a septum, but still you can go through because you have certain valves, okay, through which you can go. Now, it goes to the left ventricle. Now, when the left ventricle, it will go to the body because the body cells are the one that needs oxygen. Now, the body cells receives the oxygen, they do the respiration, and at the end product of respiration, what do you get? You get carbon dioxide. Now that is a waste that we do not want. So now the bloods, after receiving oxygen, the cells will be giving about what? Carbon dioxide in more amount. So I'll call this blood as deoxygenated blood. Now where will this deoxygenated blood go? Again, it has to go to the lungs. It has to go to the lungs because lungs is where the exchange of gases and everything will take place, right? Initially, at least that's how oxygen is received. So can they directly go to the lungs, my dear children? No. You need a pumping system. Just like how you had to pump throughout your body, you had to pump with the help of your heart only, you could do that, right? Similarly, this from the body, my dear children, the deoxygenated blood is now going to go to the heart first. Where in the heart? Atrium or ventricle? It will go to the atrium. It will go to the atrium. From the atrium, it goes to the ventricle. From the ventricle, it goes to the lungs. And again, it will get oxygenated, and again the same thing repeats over here. So this type of circulation where your blood, with the same blood, is going twice through your heart. Once it got oxygenated, and second time it is getting deoxygenated and is moving around. This is known as double circulation. This is known as double circulation. Where do you find it? So you find it in organisms like aves, that is birds, and also mammals like us, and also mammals. We are having 4-chambered heart. We are having 4-chambered heart. Why, ma'am? Because we do not have mixing of blood. There is no mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Why? Because we have higher oxygen requirements. Why do we need oxygen, my dear children? Have you heard about glycolysis? Yes, right? So in glycolysis, which is production of basically ATP, we break down glucose for the production of ATP, that is energy. Here you need very much amount of oxygen. You need very much amount of oxygen. So over here, we need, since we are going to maintain a constant body temperature, we are known as homeotherms, okay? We maintain a constant body temperature, which is why we need what? Lots of ATP, and for lots of ATP we need oxygen, which is why we have two separate chambers. Clearly, entirely. That is why not two separate chambers, 4 separate chambers, such that there is no mixing of blood happening. So always remember, apes and mammals, we are known as homeotherms, okay, or warm-blooded animals. We maintain a constant body temperature. We do not have mixing of blood. Okay, so 4 chambers. Now comes the one with least number of chambers. That is, the fishes. Okay, what happens in the case of fishes? So fishes have 1 atrium and 1 ventricle. 1 atrium and 1 ventricle. How does the functioning take place over there? So you know they have gills. So instead of lungs, they have gills, my dear children. Now in the gills, my dear children, the gills would be supplied with blood vessels. The gills would be supplied with blood vessels. In the blood vessels, you would be having certain cells. So they will be taking the oxygen, dissolved oxygen from the water, and it will be transported to the blood cells. Where are these blood cells going to go? To the heart? No, they do not go to the heart. They will be directly going to the body parts. They will be going to the body parts with the help from the gills directly. From the body parts. Now the deoxygenated blood will be coming to the heart. The deoxygenated blood is going to come to the heart, first to the atrium, then to the ventricle. From the ventricle, it will be going to the gills, the blood vessels in the gills. You get it? So over here, we say this is venous circulation. Why? Because in the case of fishes, my dear children, the heart is not pumping oxygenated blood anyhow. It is only going to pump deoxygenated blood. So first is that you get exchange over here. The oxygen is exchanged over here. You get oxygen, the cells go to the body parts, supply it there. Deoxygenated blood goes to the atrium, then to the ventricle, from where it is pumped to the gills. Again, same thing happens, but always this is a deoxygenated blood that is getting transported. This is known as single circulation. Okay, this is known as single circulation, where the blood, in the whole cycle, the blood is moving only once, and that is in the deoxygenated form, my dear children. This is known as single circulation. And how many number of chambers are there? Fishes, or what do you call them as? Pisces, they just have 2 chambers in their heart. Okay, now, and they always pump deoxygenated blood. Now comes the next thing, that is about vertebrates. How many chambers? Sorry, not vertebrates. So these are all vertebrates. Oh my god, sorry. Now we have amphibians and reptiles. Okay, amphibians and reptiles, their story is kind of different. So they have 2 chambers and 1 more chamber. So they have a right atrium, they have a left atrium, and there is a ventricle, not right nor left, it's middle. Okay, so what happens over here? Again, you have lungs or whatever is there. Okay, from the lungs, the oxygenated blood goes to the left atrium. From here it goes to the ventricle. From here it goes to the body. Now the body will give deoxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood goes to the right atrium. From the right atrium, where can it go, my dear children? Can it go directly go to the lungs? No, it will go to the ventricle. So what is happening over here? First you are receiving oxygenated blood, here you are receiving deoxygenated blood. What is happening in the ventricle? There is mixing of blood happening in the ventricle. Please remember that. Okay, there is what? Mixing of blood happening in the ventricle. Okay, now over here this mixed blood goes to the body, but it needs oxygen, so oxygen is taken in. So because of the pressure difference, the oxygen is obviously taken in, and what you get back is more amount of carbon dioxide rich blood, which is why we get deoxygenated blood is coming over here. Again, but mixing will be happening. So this type of circulation where the blood is actually moving twice, but not completely. I cannot say it's a complete total different circulation, because here mixing is there. I'll call this as incomplete double circulation. I'll call this as incomplete double circulation. And where does it happen? It happens in the case of amphibians, that is your frogs and things like that, and also reptiles. Please remember there are exceptions. In the case of crocodile, you know it's a reptile, but still it has 4-chambered heart. Here you just have 3-chambered heart, but here you have 4-chambered heart. So Pisces, they show single circulation and they just have 2-chambered heart. Here amphibians and reptiles, they have 3-chambered heart and they show what? Incomplete double circulation. Over here they show pakka pure double circulation with 4-chambered heart. That is aves and mammals. Both of them are what? Both of them are homeotherms or warm-blooded animals. Here all of them are cold-blooded or poikilotherms. Okay, what do you call them? Poikilotherms or cold-blooded, because they do not maintain a constant body temperature. If you are maintaining a constant body temperature, you need clear differentiation of oxygen and deoxygenated blood. Otherwise, because it's a high energy taking process, okay, and you will get more energy only if you have more oxygen being supplied to your body cells. Okay, here mixing is there, so I do not think it's much amount of oxygen that you can get. Now we can go through it. So fishes, 2-chambered heart, 1 atrium plus 1 ventricle, and amphibians and reptiles except crocodiles, my dear children, 3-chambered heart, 2 atria and 1 ventricle. Crocodiles, birds and mammals, 4-chambered heart with 2 atria and 2 ventricles. I think I have taught you the next slide also. So single circulation is found in fishes. Heart pumps deoxygenated blood. It gets oxygenated in the blood, in the gills, and is sent to the body and returns back to the heart, but heart is anyway going to pump deoxygenated blood only. So it is venous circulation. Alright, what do you call it? Venous circulation. Now, incomplete double circulation, that is amphibians and reptiles. So oxygenated blood from the lungs, gills or skin, okay, to the left atrium, then deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Mixing occurs in a single ventricle before being pumped out. This is why it is known as incomplete double circulation happening in the amphibians and reptiles. Okay, double circulation in birds and mammals. Oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood do not mix. Left atrium and ventricle gets oxygenated blood. Okay, and right atrium and ventricle get deoxygenated blood. Always remember La O. Okay, so L. Now double circulation ensures more efficient oxygen supply, which is why the organism showing it would be having are known as what? Homeotherms or warm-blooded animals. Done? Cool? Now, the heart. Now that is going to be something really new. So until now, I think most of you might have studied at least some of the other things in your 10th grade. Okay, I have taught 10th, so I know. So in 10th grade, you study all this thing. Now here it becomes a little more advanced. Okay, but is it something that you cannot study? No, it is something very, very easy and you can study it really well. So let's start off with the pure structure of heart and everything, of human heart and things like that. So it is a muscular chambered heart. Okay, close branching network of blood vessels is there. Blood circulating, okay, blood is a circulating fluid. Location and structure of the heart, situated in the thoracic cavity. So we have a thoracic cavity over here. This is our thoracic cavity. Then comes abdominal cavity and things like that. So this is our thoracic cavity, my dear children. So it's there in the thoracic cavity. Between what? Between the two lungs, we have the heart. It is not towards the left side. So don't go over here, I'll give my heart to you like this. Don't do like that. If you're doing, do it like this. Because it's in the middle only, but it is slightly tilted to the left side. It is slightly tilted to the left side. Now the size is about the size of your clenched fist. That is this. You have this big heart, my dear children. Now over here, it is protected by the pericardium, a double-walled membrane filled with what? Pericardial fluid. It's a double-walled membrane filled with pericardial fluid. That is what you mean by pericardium. So your heart is protected with the help of pericardium, which is double-walled membrane, which is filled with what? Pericardial fluid. Very important thing. Now heart has 4 chambers. I told you upper chambers are atria. They are smaller and they have thin walls. Okay, atria which is there, it will be smaller and it will be having thinner walls. Why? Because this just have to transport blood to the ventricles, but the ventricles are the one that are going to transport blood to the what? The body, and then this ventricle is going to transport blood to the lungs. So obviously they should be having thicker wall because they are going to undergo contraction like this. So in that case their wall should be thick, otherwise they would not be able to undergo contraction. You get it properly. So always remember the ventricles would be larger and they would be having thicker wall than the atrium. Okay, now if you talk about the heart, so over here I'm just going to do some clear labelings. This is the left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. Okay, so interatrial septum is there, which separates the left and right atria. So interatrial septum separates the left and the right atrium. Cool. Interatrium means in between the atrium. Now interventricle septum is there, which separates what? Which separates the two ventricles that we are having. Now that separation is done. Don't you think you need a atrioventricular separation as well between the atrium and the ventricle? So we have atrioventricular separation as well, my dear children, over here. This is atrium. So we have three septum. Interatrial septum between the atrium, interventricular septum between the ventricles, and atrioventricular septum between the atrium and the ventricle. Done? Now the valves which are there. Do you need valves, my dear children? Yes, we definitely need valves. Why? Because the blood which goes over here, suppose the blood came over here, okay, it's there in the right ventricle. Now when the right ventricle pumps, when it contracts, what will happen? Obviously, suppose I am here, I am getting squeezed, I'll go up. You get it? Similarly, the blood which is there, it can also go up. So do you think backflow would be helpful? No, my dear children. If it goes backflow, it does backflow, the amount of pressure will be reduced. In that case, can it supply blood to all my different body parts, my dear children? No. So in this case, there should be a valve over here that should be closed. That should be what? Getting closed when the ventricle is going to contract. You get it? So basically, we have two valves over here. Okay, over here in between the right atrium and right ventricle, we have tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve as in it has three flaps like this. So that is why it is known as tricuspid valve. So it will be open like this, and then when ventricular contraction is happening, at that point of time it closes up like this. So three of them, three walls are there, 1, 2, and then there is one more. Okay, I do not have three hands, otherwise I would have showed you. Okay, now so tricuspid, this wall is known as tricuspid valve. Cool. Now over here, tri and right, you can remember like that. Now in between the left atrium and left ventricle, you have bicuspid. Cusp means basically again flaps. Okay, bicuspid valves. You have just two flaps which is closed. Okay, you also call this as mitral valve. So bicuspid, or you call them mitral valve. Cool. Now both of them, can I call them atrioventricular valves because they are present in between the atrium and the ventricle? Yes, so they are atrioventricular valves. Now, you know that from the left ventricle, the blood is going to go to the body, right? So what is this blood vessel known as? It is known as aorta. This blood vessel is an artery. Arteries are the one that takes away the blood from the heart. Always remember that, okay? Whether it be oxygenated or deoxygenated, is the one taking the blood away from the heart. So this is aorta, which is why I'll call this valve, which is over here, right over here. Do we need a valve over here? Yes, my dear children. Again, backflow should not be happening. When the ventricle contracts, the blood goes. Suppose the pressure is less. At that point of time, it will come back again. You get it? So we do not want that backflow to happen, which is why we have a valve over here, which is named after the aorta, that is aortic valve. What do you call it? Aortic valve. Cool. Now, what happens over here? Right ventricle also supplies blood, but we also supplying blood to the lungs. To the lungs. What do you call this? This particular, again, artery is the one that carries away from the heart, right? So this is known as pulmonary artery because lungs are involved. This is why it is known as pulmonary and also artery. Now over here, I'll call this valve as pulmonary valve. Since again, I will be naming it after that. So it will be what? Pulmonary valve. Can I write it? Where can I write it? I'll write it here. Pulmonary valve. Okay. Now, I call these two valves as semi-lunar valves. Why? Because they are looking like a half moon. Semi-lunar, lunar means moon, right? So it looks like a half moon, the valve. So semi-lunar valves are these two, and atrioventricular valves are bicuspid and the tricuspid valves that you are having. I hope that is also clear. All of them, they are going to prevent what? Black flow of blood. So tricuspid valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle, 3 flaps are there. Bicuspid or mitral valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle, 2 flaps are there. Okay, semilunar valves are the ones, the other valves which looks like half moon. Pulmonary valve at the opening of the pulmonary artery, and aortic valve at the opening of the aorta. Okay, function prevents the backflow of blood. This is how it actually looks. Okay, so this is the picture. I'll just zoom it in and show it to you. So here is one atrium. From here it goes to the ventricle. From the ventricle, this suppose the right atrium and right ventricle. From here it will be going to the lungs. Okay, it will be going to the lungs. So this will become your semilunar valve, that is pulmonary valve. So here is one valve between atrium and ventricle. From the ventricle to the pulmonary artery, this is the valve. Similarly over here, from here to here you have the bicuspid valve, and then from here to the, what do you call, the aorta, you would be having the semilunar valve, that is aortic valve. Okay, done, cool, chalo. Now, have you heard about something that is known as SAN and AVN? SAN stands for sinoatrial node. It is also known as the pacemaker of the heart. Why do you call it as the pacemaker of the heart? Because, my dear children, basically this is just a form of tissues that you have, and they are auto-excitable, as in you do not need any control on that. Okay, it will be auto-excitable, as in it will be always working. It does not need a stimulus for working. Okay, so where is it exactly located? So sinoatrial node, amma, why it is not working? Yeah, so over here I'll make like this only and show. I don't want to confuse you guys. So sinoatrial node, my dear children, it is located in the upper right atrium. This is the sinoatrial node, which is also known as the pacemaker. Remember, they are the ones which are auto-excitable. And what will happen over here, you would be having so many muscle cells, my dear children. You know, heart have cardiac muscles, right? So these cells are over here. What will happen is that this particular sinoatrial node will be giving signal to these guys. How? With the help of the sodium transport things which are there happening in between them, my dear children. There will be action potential. Okay. So almost how many times? Basically 70 to 75 times. 70 to 75 action potential are being released per minute. Per minute I am talking, okay? Per minute. So what happens is that when it does this, the cells around the atrium, my dear children, the cells around the atrium are going to get contracted because the muscles are getting active, and hence it is going to get contracted. What do you call this contraction stage as? You call this as systole. Always remember, it is known as systole. Now, who is getting contracted, atrium or ventricle? It is the atrium that is getting contracted, which is why I'll call this as atrial systole. This is what? Atrial systole. Now what happens? Obviously there are other cells also which gets active, and slowly it will reach somewhere over here. And over here what do we have? We have atrioventricular node. As the name suggests, it is located in the lower left corner. This is the left corner of the right atrium, okay, near the atrioventricular septum. So it is what? Quite near to the atrioventricular septum. So what will happen is that the signals come over here, the atrium is getting systole, it is getting contracted. Okay, whatever blood is there, my dear children, it is going to go to the ventricles right over here. Okay, it is going to the ventricles right over here when the systole is happening. Right, now when the signal comes over here in the atrioventricular node, what happens is that this guy stops the whole thing for, not stops, it like pauses the whole thing for 0.1 second. For what? 0.1 second. So what happens is that basically by that time, it will get a time to what? Relax. The atrium gets a time to relax. At this point of time, the atrioventricular node, as I said, it pauses, and basically it sends down signal to the next guy. That is what? The bundle of his. So bundle of his, my dear children, travels down like this. Okay, it goes to this side and it goes to this side as well. Also, bundle of his would be having Purkinje fibers. Which will finally, when they are excited, basically they are going to cause what? They are going to cause what? Ventricular systole. So initially what happened? Basically atrium was there, it had atrial systole. Okay, whatever blood was there, it got punched down, it went over here. it went over here. In this phase, when the ventricle is there, I'll call it as a relaxed state. So initially, when the atrial was undergoing systole, the ventricular diastole was happening. Diastole means relaxation. The ventricles were in a diastolic state. Okay. Now basically what happened? The atrium contracted. It basically sent the signal to AV node. It paused for some seconds and then basically gave down the signal over here to the ventricles. Now the ventricles are undergoing what? Systole. The ventricles would be undergoing systole. At this point of time, again contraction would be happening and things would be going on. Okay, how does the contraction happens? From the AV node, it goes to the bundle of His, and then from the bundle of His to the Purkinje fibers which are there, which will be later contracting the ventricles, which is leading to what? Ventricular systole. Okay, so what are the things that you need to remember? The things that you need to remember is sinoatrial node is known as pacemaker because they are auto-excitable and they are going to set the pace, right? They are going to set the pace. It is almost 70 to 75 action potential per minute. Okay, initiates and maintains the heartbeat. It is the one that initiates and maintains the heartbeat. Then we have atrioventricular node that is over here. It is near, not in, okay? It's near the atrioventricular septum towards the lower left corner of the right atrium, yeah. AV bundle, AV bundle, that is bundle of His and Purkinje fibers. About that, AV bundle passes through the septa, divides into right and the left branches. The Purkinje fibers spread out throughout the ventricles, helping in what? Contraction. Now, normal heartbeat is 72 beats per minute. I am going to tell you how you get it. Okay, and auto-excitable, as I told you, heart generates its own impulses without any external stimulation. The coordinated contraction of atria and ventricles ensures what? Efficient blood circulation. So you got the basic idea of SAN and AVN. Now we are going to talk about the cardiac cycle. How does the heart actually beat? What all is the time duration that it requires? Okay, so this is the thing that I was talking about. So you have the sinoatrial node over here, then you have the atrioventricular node over here. Okay, then you have bundle of His and the Purkinje fibers which would be arising from it. Cool. Now over here, let's talk about, again I spoke about this only, oh my god. Yeah, let's talk about the cardiac cycle. So for that, actually I did not need this particular picture, but okay, let it be there. So I'm going to make a circle out there, or I should not be making it this big, I'll be making it little chotu. Okay, make a line like this, make a line like this. So, one particular cardiac cycle. What do you mean by a cardiac cycle? Cardiac cycle means basically the movement of blood. That is, one particular cardiac cycle includes one complete atrial systole, diastole, as well as ventricular systole and diastole. That is what you mean by one cardiac cycle. Okay, so one cardiac cycle means you're talking about one round of ventricular and atrial, diastole and systole. You will get more clarity, just trust me over here. Okay, so what happens is that this particular thing is completed within 0.8 seconds, which is less than 1 minute, my dear children. One cycle itself. Okay, one cycle itself, it is completed within 0.8 seconds. I'll tell you how. So 0.4 second goes over here. 0.1 second goes over here, and rest is 0.3, which goes over here. What is this phase known as? This is where joint diastole is happening. What do you mean by joint diastole? Both the atrium and the ventricle, they are in the relaxed state. Ma'am, I didn't get it. Basically, both of them are not doing anything. In the atrium, my dear children, the blood is getting filled. The blood is getting filled from the other body parts. Okay. Now, in this case, when the blood gets filled, my dear children, okay, always remember, if this is the ventricle and this is the atrium, in the ventricles there will be almost always 60 ml of blood there. There will be always 60 ml of blood still persisting there. Now, in this relaxed condition, what is happening? Both of them are relaxing. Blood is getting filled. Okay, so initially it was like this, it is closed. Okay, just imagine that it was closed. So I'm going to change a bit of colors of oh my god. Okay, sorry. Did I scare you? I'm so sorry if I did. Okay, that happens. So yeah, they are closed. What is this? This is tricuspid valve. Okay, now it is closed. Similarly here also, this is also closed. Blood is slowly filling in. Yeah, and now here already a little amount of blood is there, that is 60 ml of blood. Similarly here also you would be having 60 ml of blood. I changed the color. This is the problem. This is the problem of Jasmine ma'am. Okay, now here from body parts it is getting filled, here from the lungs it is getting filled. Slowly when filling happens, my dear children, you only think blood is getting filled. At this point of time, there will be pressure on the valves. There will be pressure on the valves up over here. So even without undergoing the systole, even without undergoing the contraction, my dear children, because of this pressure that the blood is exerting on the valve, that is the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve, the valve will be opening up. The valve will be opening up like this, and the blood will be flowing down. The blood will be flowing down over here. Do you think all the blood will be going? No, obviously no. So little amount of blood will be going over here. I'll mark it in red. So I'll say in this particular phase, when both of them are doing the joint diastole, both of them are relaxing, what is happening is that there is passive filling of blood. Passive filling of blood. And I proudly say I also learned it from a teacher who is there on YouTube. She was an amazing teacher. So I have to tell it. Yeah. So anyways, so passive filling of blood is happening over here. Now what, my dear children? Slowly, after 0.4 second, what happens is that basically at this point of time, the sinoatrial node, it's active. It is sending signal, my dear children. Atrium slowly undergoes contraction. Atrium slowly undergoes contraction, and over here I'll say atrial systole is happening. Atrial systole is happening for how many seconds? 0.1 second. Now in this 0.1 second, whatever left over blood was there, whatever left over blood is there, it will be now filling up over here. So I'll marking it in purple. Okay, it will be filling up over here. So I'll say there is active filling. There was passive filling over here, but now it is what? Active filling of blood happening over here. So initially it was 60, I told you. Now what is this? How much ml is this particular blood? That is both the purple and the red. Red one was the one that was going initially because of there is too much blood, so it came down like that. And this is through passive and this is through active. Total it is, if you talk about the total amount, it comes out to be 70 ml. So 60 ml was there initially plus 70 ml. So at the end, if you see at the end of atrial systole, my dear children, I will call it, so end diastolic volume, my dear children, end diastolic volume would be 130 ml. What? 130 ml. 60 plus 70 is 130 ml. Why do I call it end diastolic volume? Because after atrial systole, what is it going to undergo? It is going to undergo diastole. So end diastolic volume is what, my dear children? 130. It is completely emptied, and now it is what? 130 ml. End diastolic volume. Remember it. Now what will happen? The atrial systole happened. The atrial systole happened. Now the blood will be going over here. The blood will be going over here. It is going to undergo diastole. Atrium is going to basically undergo diastole. But anyways, let's talk about the ventricle now. What happens to the ventricle? Once the blood gets filled, my dear children, the ventricle will now undergo systole. So atrium, on the other hand, it is undergoing diastole. Atrial diastole is taking place over here, and the ventricles, they are going to undergo systole. The ventricles are, my dear children, from the sinoatrial node, all the things went, okay. contraction happened, slowly it went to this particular thing, that is atrioventricular node. From atrioventricular node, it's given the signal to the bundle of His and the Purkinje fibers, which is now making it what? Basically contract, right? That is ventricular systole is happening. At this point of time, when the ventricular systole happens, my dear children, you only think when the blood is being when the ventricle is being contracted, what will happen? Over here, first thing, the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve should be closing up. Why? Because they are contracting, there are higher chances that it will go back. The blood will be going back. So first thing that you observe is what? Closure of the closure of the atrioventricular valve, which gives you a lub sound. Which gives you what? A lub sound. Now, when the contraction happens, so suppose this is an atrium. I hope we can see this, yeah. So this is the atrium. An atrium has the tricuspid valve over here. So this becomes closed. What about this valve, the semilunar valve, which is between the pulmonary artery and the ventricles? What about that? So when the contraction happens, the blood will be giving pressure, which is why these valves get open and the blood will be moving out. The blood will be moving out. But my dear children, when the pressure drops, what will happen? There are higher chances that the blood can come back as well. So this point of time, after the contraction is done, after the ventricular systole is done, immediately, to obviously little amount of backflow will be there, which is why we have 60 ml of blood still always there in the ventricles, my dear children. But not to prevent, to prevent all the blood from backflow, what do we do? Basically, the semilunar valves which opened up, okay, when the blood falls on them, it will be closing back, which is why you get a sound that is dub. That is dub, and not here, it will be somewhere around here. It will be somewhere around here. You will be having that dub sound. So lub and dub is there, and now the blood will be basically moving to the, so I just gave the example of right side. The similar thing happens with the left side as well. Now in that way, again what will happen? Again the ventricle systole happen. Now both of them are going to have a relaxed state. Now both of them are going to have a relaxed state for 0.4 seconds. Cool? Works. Then again 0.1 atrial systole and then the ventricular systole. So over here, please do not add atrial diastole. That will be wrong to say that. Okay, let's keep it, or you can say it, no problem. In that way also you can say that's not an issue. My hair. Okay, I'll just come. Do not go anywhere. I'll just stop. Yes, I am here. So I hope you understood it, my dear children. Atrial ventricle systole and things like that. So over here, yes, you can write atrial systole is happening along with ventricular systole. Here they have a joint diastole. Here just atrial is undergoing what? Systole. Okay, now here ventricle would be what? Ventricle would be still having diastolic phase itself. Now that is a general thing. So it is happening within 0.8 seconds. You saw that everything is happening. That is one complete cardiac cycle happens within 0.8 seconds. Now, if you see, how many times will you see the heartbeat there? So in one particular 0.8 second, you have 0.8 second. If you have one cardiac cycle happening, then in 60 seconds, that is 1 minute, how many times it will happen? It will give around 72, which is why we say that in 1 minute, our heart beats 72 times. In 1 minute, our heart beats what? 72 times. I hope now you got the reason behind it. Okay, now I have one very important thing to tell you. So, okay, now I have changed the look completely, but anyways, listen to me carefully. So over here, there is something that is known as stroke volume. There is something that is known as stroke volume. What do you mean by stroke volume? What do you mean by stroke volume? That means stroke volume is basically when ventricular systole is happening, how much amount of blood you're basically transferring. That is what you mean by stroke volume. So I told you that always 60 ml blood remains. So what is left behind? 70 ml would be what? The stroke volume, which is basically transported when your ventricles undergo contraction. When the ventricles undergo contraction, at this point of time, 70 ml of blood is going. If going. Okay, so now again the next question that I have for you guys is Okay. Yeah, here itself I will explain. Okay, listen. So, stroke volume is 70 ml. Okay, your ventricles are basically giving out your body 70 ml of blood. How many times is your heart beating? 72 times your heart is beating. So, total cardiac output, if it is asked, in one particular cycle, in whole cycle in 1 minute, my dear children, how much amount of blood does your body receive? If the question is being asked, what will be your answer? What will be your answer? So, how do you calculate the whole, not cardiac cycle, it's basically cardiac output. How do you calculate the cardiac output? What you do is, you calculate the stroke volume, that is how much amount of blood do you transfer during ventricular systole, and then in what, if the number of beats are this much. So, what is the number of beats? 72 times our heart beats. Okay, 72 times this much amount of blood is being transported. What much amount of blood? 70. So, 70 into 72, it comes around, if you calculate, my dear children, calculate once. So, it will be, I'll tell you the correct number. It is 5040, but still 50 something 4. So, I don't want to make you confused. 5040, yes. It will be 5040 ml of blood, which is roughly equal to what? 5000 ml of blood. Can you believe it? In 1 minute, your heart supplying to your body 5000 ml, that is 5 liters of blood. This is the total cardiac output. How did you get it? I hope you know that. Okay, you calculate the stroke volume. Stroke volume is the actual amount of blood that is transported from the heart, okay, during the ventricular systole. So 60 ml still remains because of the backflow and things like that. 70 ml goes out, and in 1 minute you have 72 times that your heart beats. How did you come up with this calculation? Because one cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. So in 60 seconds, how many times the cardiac cycle will be happening? 72 times. So 72 times your heart beats, my dear children. So I'll say 72 times 70 ml volume of blood is being transported. So it comes around 5000 ml of blood, which is 5 liters of blood, which is the cardiac output. I hope you understood that as well. Okay, so over here, if you see, what is cardiac cycle? The sequence of events in the heart, including systole, that is contraction, and diastole of what? Of the ventricles as well as the atrium. Repeated cycling to pump blood throughout the body, that is cardiac cycle. Now, how long does a cardiac cycle last? The heart beats 72 times per minute. Duration of one cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. Stroke volume and cardiac output. Stroke volume is each ventricle pumps out 70 ml of blood per beat. Yes, and cardiac output is what? Volume of blood pumped per minute by your heart. How do you calculate it? Stroke volume, okay, into what? Heart rate. What is the stroke volume? It is 70 ml. What is the heart rate? 72 beats per minute. So it will be coming out roughly up to 5000 milliliters, that is 5 liters. Now, cardiac output varies on activity level. It could be higher in the people who are athletes, because obviously they are running and things like that. So they will be having higher amount of heartbeats. So if your heartbeats is changing, obviously the number amount will be also changing. Okay, now the heart sounds, you have lub and dub. That is the first sound. First sound happens because of closure of tricuspid and bicuspid valve during the ventricular contraction. Dub, closure of semilunar valves during the ventricular relaxation. These sounds are clinically important for diagnosing what? The heart condition as well. So that is about cardiac cycle. Please make sure you go through this once more and understand everything. If you are not understanding, I am here to explain you. Please ask me the question in the comment section. Okay, done? Clear? So we will be going ahead with the next thing, that is ECG, and also if something is left behind, we will do that. So I am doing this video in two separate, I am recording in two separate parts, because it will be too exhausting for me to talk for it's almost 1.5 hours, right? So yes, so we'll see. Okay, so I hope you do not have any doubt until here, and if you like the teaching, do let me know in the comment section. I'll be right back. Okay children, let's start off with the next topic, that is what? It is ECG, and this particular topic is very, very easy. So people think it is very difficult and all, but it's actually easy. Listen to me carefully. So ECG stands for electrocardiogram. What do you mean by electrocardiogram? This thing that you see over here, which is like a graphical representation, my dear children, this is known as electrocardiogram. The graphical representation is known as electrocardiogram, and I'll tell you something, the machine that is used to get this graphical representation is known as electrocardiograph. So people generally get confused. The graphical representation should be known as graph. No, but it's not like that. It is known as electrocardiogram, and the machine that is used is known as electrocardiograph, my dear children. And graphical representation of what? Graphical representation of the electrical activity of your heart, my dear children, during a cardiac cycle. Okay, so it is a representation of that. Okay, not one cardiac cycle, multiple cardiac cycles that are there. Now, how is it recorded? As I told you, you need a machine, that is electrocardiograph, where basically electrodes are placed on your body. You might be knowing that your body is an excellent conductor of electricity. It's not like we are putting electricity and the people who are there are dying of that. No, no, no. In limited amount, the electrodes are being put on the body, my dear children, to check the electrical activity. For that, generally I'm talking, we use three major leads. Okay, so one lead is put over here, so on the right and the left wrist, and also one on the left ankle. Where? On the left ankle. Everyone, touch your left ankle and see where is it. Yes. Okay, so there's a step like this, no? So you can remember like that. Anyways, but you have to remember it. Okay, so one on each wrist plus one on the left ankle, my dear children, which is that is how we are going to basically create a closed circuit. So over here it will be put there, and we are going to create a closed circuit where your heart will be there, my dear children, and its electrical activity can be easily, checked upon. Cool. Now we are going to see how do you actually get this graph. What is the reason behind this ups and downs and everything. So we say ups and downs are really important in life, and that is what we mean by this. Okay. So ups and downs in our heart, my dear children, are really important. Otherwise we are going to die. So my dear children, see over here we have P, Q, R, S, T. 4 letters. Five letters. P, Q, R, S, T. Right. P represents something that is known as atrial excitation or depolarization. What do you mean by that? Basically, the cells around the atria, my dear children, they are going to have an influx of sodium. Okay, they are going to have an influx of sodium, which is why their actual polarized state is going to differ. Okay, now they are going to get depolarized. They are going to get depolarized. There is a difference in the membrane potential that is happening up there. Okay, so I'll say it is known as atrial depolarization, or it is also known as atrial excitation. But ma'am, what's the use of this? Basically, when influx of sodium ion happens, my dear children, all of them are getting active, and basically they are going to contract. Whom are they going to contract? The atrium. So atrial systole happens over here. The atrial systole happens over here. I hope you got it. That is why you have a P-shaped curve. So atria, wake up, it's like that. Okay, shows atrial depolarization, the electrical signal making the atria contract, aka also known as the heart's ready signal. Now the heart is ready. There is a P jump. Okay, now we jumped, and then we are going straight for some time because it takes time. Okay, it takes time. There is a time gap between the atrial systole and the next thing, that is what? So from the atrium, this SA node basically sends the signal to all the cells around it. Yeah, that's how the atrium contracts. Then slowly it sends the signals to what? AV node. Yeah, in the middle, remember, towards the atrioventricular side you have the AV node. It goes there, and now from there it goes to what? The bundle of His, and from bundle of His to the Purkinje fibers. Now when it has reached to the AV node and it is sending the signal to the bundle of His and everything, and it's going to the Purkinje fibers, what is going to happen over there? There also the cells around the ventricles, my dear children, they are going to experience something that is known as ventricular depolarization. They are also going to experience something that is known as ventricular depolarization. That means now the ventricles are going to undergo what? Systole. They are going to undergo systole, my dear children. So, just after some time of Q, okay, after some time of Q that is written in your NCERT, we say that the contraction starts off. Okay, so QRS represents ventricular depolarization. Okay, electrical signal causing the ventricles to contract. This is when the blood is pumped out. Yeah, during the ventricular systole only the blood will be pumped out to different regions of our body. You get it? Now Q marks contraction start kicking off systole. So from here, it's not exactly Q point, but basically towards after just some time of Q, you will say that the systole has finally started off. Now after the ventricular systole, my dear children, also one more thing. Okay, I'll tell it later on. So ventricular systole, after that, after it has contracted, obviously it has to relax as well. So we say we have another curve. We have another curve. So it's like there was a slow jump and then there was a big jump, and then for some time we worked, and then again a slow jump, and then again what? A slow jump. This slow jump which is there, it is known as T curve. What do you mean by T? T is where it shows that the ventricles are getting repolarized. Okay, the ventricles, they are getting repolarized. Again, the membrane potential, resting membrane potential is to come back again, which is why we'll say that the ventricles, there is ventricular repolarization. Okay, that means the ventricles have started getting what? They are going to start relaxing off, my dear children. They are going to start off relaxing. And in your NCERT, there is one line written, the end of T wave. The end of T wave is when the systole is finally over. So over here, the systole is happening. I am assuming it's happening. It has started relaxing also, and finally towards the end of T, I'll say it has completely relaxed. That means the systole is finally over. Okay, the systole is finally over. Please remember these small details. From after some time of Q, I'll say systole has started. After some time of T, okay, sorry, at the end of the T, that is at the end of the T wave, I will say that the systole is finally what, my dear children? Over. So relaxation have started off. Okay, relaxation have already started off, but it takes some time. Please remember like that. Okay, so this is what you mean by ECG. Now, one thing is missing. So atrial systole is mentioned, ventricular systole is mentioned, ventricular diastole is also happening over here. What do you mean by repolarization? Basically that means it is getting what? Not this, okay, it is getting back to normal. That is ventricular diastole is happening. But what about atrial diastole, my dear children? What about atrial diastole? It also has to relax, right? When does it relax? At this particular point itself. When the ventricles are going to contract, my dear children, at that particular point, the atria is going to undergo what? Diastole. There is atrial diastole happening. But ma'am, why is it not represented over here? So since this curve is more intense, which is why it is represented. It is represented. The other one is not being shown over here. So there is atrial diastole also happening at the same point of time. Please understand that as well. Okay, and with that we complete what? ECG. And any variation in ECG, there can be different type of variations, my dear children. It shows up that the electrical activity of your heart is not good. It can show that whether cardiac arrest or whatever is there or not. Okay, so that is the use of ECG. Works. Now going ahead to the next thing, that is blood vessels. So you know you have arteries, you have veins and things like that. So what is common in them is that they have three layers: tunica intima, tunica media and tunica externa. As the name suggests, okay, as the name suggests, the innermost one is known as intima. Tunica intima. So tunica intima is made up of squamous endothelium. Okay, squamous endothelium, my dear children, they do not have a particular shape. If you have seen squamous tissues, they are like multiple shapes and they are arranged together like that. Okay, so there is inner squamous endothelium for smooth and easy flow, and then there is tunica media. Tunica media is a middle layer which is made up of smooth vessels, because you want basically your blood to go forward, right? And also it is made up of elastic fibers. Again, very much important. If elasticity is not there in your blood vessels, my dear children, it becomes so rigid. So the blood that comes with pressure goes hit there, again hits there, again hits there. When it comes like that, your blood vessels are going to get damaged. So which is why it has to be elastic. It has to be elastic such that the hit does not go like that. If the blood comes with high pressure, basically it moves like this. You get it? It is not elastic as in too much elastic. Just understand it is a bit of elastic. It has elastic fibers, which is why it will be comparatively not comparatively, it will be elastic and it will safeguard your blood vessels. Okay, so middle layer of smooth muscle and also elastic fibers. It is thicker in the case of arteries. Why? Because arteries are the one, always remember, A for arteries and A for way. So arteries are the one that takes the blood away from the heart. Okay, and it is thinner in the veins. It will be thinner in the veins. That is, tunica media will be thinner in the veins because they are the ones that carry blood towards the heart. So they are not under high pressure. Sorry. So they do not need what? A thicker tunica media. Okay. Now, tunica externa, the outermost layer, obviously it has to be made up of fibrous connective tissue with what? Collagen fibers, which provides what? The strength. Okay, so outer fibrous connective tissue, it is made up of connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue with what fibers? Collagen fibers. Okay, which provides the strength. So three things: tunica intima, tunica media and tunica externa. Intima is made up of squamous endothelium. Yeah. Squamous endothelium. Second thing is tunica media. It is made up of smooth muscles and also elastic fibers. This tunica media, my dear children, it is thinner in the case of veins. It is thicker in the case of arteries because arteries carry blood away. So it will be under the pressure of the heart. Okay. Now tunica externa is where it is made up of outer fibrous connective tissue. What fibers? Collagen fibers, ma'am. Done? Remember? Will you remember it? I hope you do. Now we have two types of circulatory pathways. Okay, we have two types of circulatory pathways about which we studied about double circulation and things like that. No, here you will understand a lot of things. It's very easy. So I told you there is lungs send oxygenated blood to the heart. Then from the heart it goes to the body, right? And then it brings back deoxygenated blood from the heart. It will go back to the lungs. That is how it works, right? Now I can actually divide the circulation into two types. That is pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. Okay, what do you mean by pulmonary circulation? Anything that happens between the lungs and the heart, that will be pulmonary circulation. For example, first lungs would be sending down oxygenated blood, yeah, oxygenated blood to the heart. To the heart over here. So this is the suppose I am dividing it like this. Okay, this is the left atrium. It brings oxygenated blood to the heart, to the left atrium, with the help of a vein that is known as pulmonary vein. Towards the heart, it has to be a vein, and since lungs are associated, I will call it pulmonary vein. Now, again, my dear children, okay, so this is a part of pulmonary circulation when it is bringing in. Again, what happens from the body? Deoxygenated blood will be brought back. Deoxygenated blood will be brought back. First, it will go to the right atrium, and then it will be going to the right ventricle. First, it comes like this to the right atrium, not here. Okay, it goes to the right atrium, then it comes to the right ventricle. Should I be making a separate thing? Yes, I will be making a separate thing. I think that will be more easy for you to understand. So sorry for wasting a minute, but this is equally important, which is why I have to explain. This is your left atrium, this is your left ventricle, this is your right atrium, this is your right ventricle. If you listen to me, you would never forget the flow of blood in the heart. Okay, so you have lungs, agreed, and you have body parts, agreed. Now, the one that carries blood towards the heart will be always a vein. So vein. Now here the blood is going away from the heart, so it has to be an artery. Cool. Again, it has to bring blood towards the heart. What part of heart? Atrium. Always atrium comes first. Okay. So this will be, again, it is carrying towards the heart, so it has to be a vein. Now, from here it goes to the valve, and from here, from the right ventricle, it goes back to the lungs. Okay. That is to basically away from the heart, not towards the heart, away from the heart. Away from the heart, that means it has to be an artery. Now we have to name them. So this vein, which is associated with the lungs and the heart, my dear children, this is known as pulmonary vein. This artery that is associated with the heart and the lungs, my dear children, again, wherever lungs is there, you have to use the term pulmonary. So this is pulmonary artery, that is pulmonary vein. Now over here, this artery which carries the blood, oxygenated blood, my dear children, to the body parts, you call it as aorta. This is one of the biggest artery that we have. This is what? Aorta. Okay. Now over here, the one that brings back the blood, okay, to the right atrium, you call this vein as vena cava. Vena cava or vena cava. You have two. You have superior vena cava, which collects it from the top side of your body, and inferior vena cava, which collects from the bottom part of your body. But anyways, it is bringing down. I hope the names are also clear. Cool. Now over here, always on the left side, my dear children, there will be only oxygenated blood. Because left atrium asks for bring in oxygen, which is why it is always oxygenated blood. This time here always there will be deoxygenated blood. Now we are talking about two types of circulation, that is systemic and pulmonary. Systemic, and the other one I am going to color it in red. Is it visible? Yes. Pulmonary. Now wherever you see lungs and heart involvement, I will say it is pulmonary circulation. For example, from here to here, lungs to the left atrium, it is pulmonary circulation. Okay, now the blood went to the body, came back, and now from the heart, from the right ventricle to the lungs, again this will also be a part of what? This will also be a part of pulmonary circulation. So when it is heart and the lungs involved, it is pulmonary circulation. Now let's see systemic circulation. So systemic circulation is where oxygenated blood came here. Now the oxygenated blood is going to the body parts. To the body parts, here body and the heart is involved. So I'll say this is a part of what? Systemic circulation first. And now again from here, from the body parts back to the heart, that is at the right atrium, this will be a part of systemic circulation. So two things are part of systemic circulation and two things are part of what? Pulmonary circulation, my dear children. Okay, please remember that. That is the thing that you should be knowing, and together you call this as double circulation because your blood is moving twice through your heart. Got it? If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can, because it won't be there in the PDF. It's not an extra page. It is just a thing that I added. It will be going away. Yeah? So done. Now, so what do you mean by pulmonary circulation? Lungs and basically lungs and the heart is involved. Right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood into the pulmonary artery. Into what? The pulmonary artery. Yeah, and it goes to what? The lungs, my dear children. Blood reaches the lungs, get oxygenated and returns via what? The pulmonary vein. It goes to the heart, deoxygenated, comes back from the lungs to the heart in the form of oxygenated with the help of pulmonary veins. Left atriums receive oxygen-rich blood which will be pumped to the body. Now that is a part of what? Pulmonary circulation. Now systemic circulation is between body and the heart. Left ventricle, my dear children, will pump the oxygenated blood to the aorta. Yeah, aorta will be branching into arteries, arterioles, capillaries and everything, and later from the body it will be taking in deoxygenated blood and connected by venules, veins and vena cava. Yeah, and then comes to the right atrium, and then this completes what? Systemic circulation. From right atrium, when it goes to right ventricle, from there it will be going back to the lungs. That will start off what? Pulmonary circulation. So you have first pulmonary, then systemic, then again systemic, then pulmonary, things going on again and again in your body. So do not get confused, just refer to what I said earlier. It will be very, very easy for you to understand that way. Okay, so and one more thing, when you talk about arteries, veins and all, so artery, suppose this is the artery that we have. The arteries are going to branch down into something that is known as arterioles, and the arterioles, my dear children, again they are also going to branch down into something very, very thin, which is known as what? Capillaries. Now capillaries, my dear children, they will be joining back again. You would be having venules, and the venules join back to become what? The vein. Where does the gaseous exchange take place? In the capillaries. In the capillaries, the gaseous exchange actually takes place. Cool? Because they are thin walled. Now, you have two special circulatory systems happening in your body. So, I told you generally what happens. You have arteries, then arteriole, then capillaries, and then venules, and then vein. So, arteries and veins at the end, and in between you have capillaries. In short, you can remember like that. That is how it generally works. Okay. So, why does it happen? Because the capillaries they are very thin, so they can be moving around between the cells and transferring the content and everything. That is how it happens. But now, in this particular case, in the case of special circulatory system, for example, hepatic portal system, my dear children, where what is going to happen is that your liver is going to play a very important role. So, usually what happens? We have organs, and organs basically when blood comes to the organs, in the organs they supply the blood and they take back the deoxygenated blood back to what? The heart. So it's heart and the organ circle that is going on. The heart and the organ thing that is going on, that is usually going on. But over here in the case of hepatic portal system, things are quite different. What is happening is that there is organ, okay, there is another organ, and then there is heart. There is organ, or probably you can put it like this. Instead of writing like that, there is organ, there is another organ, and over here you have the heart. So what happens is that blood will be going to this particular organ. So first organ that I have taken is your digestive tract. Man, digestive tract is not an organ, it consists of organs. Yes, it consists of organs. What are those organs? My dear children, you have intestine, you have stomach, you have pancreas, everything. Okay, stomach, pancreas and intestine comes under the digestive tract. So from all these places, my dear children, Okay, from all these places, you take the blood. You will be taking the blood. And what's the different part about this? What is the unique thing about this particular blood? This particular blood is going to be rich in nutrients because you're getting from the intestine and everything where the absorption of nutrients have taken place. The fats, the glucose and lot of things. So this particular blood, okay, this particular blood has different type of nutrients. I'm not talking about oxygen, things like that. I'm just talking about nutrients. Okay, so these nutrients have to be taken to the liver. They have to be taken to the liver because liver is a storehouse of lot of things. For example, glucose is stored in the form of glycogen there. Okay, and so many nutrients and everything are getting converted into different forms over there. So basically, instead of directly going to the heart, they have to first go to the liver. They have to make a visit over there. So in this case, what is happening? A vein is the one. Vein will be obviously the one that carries. So an artery came over here. So remember like this. An artery came over here. There was capillary formation. Just a second. There was capillary formation over here, and then at the end you got a vein. You got a vein. Now this vein should be directly taking things to the heart, that is through vena cava and things like that, but it is not happening there. This vein is going to another organ because this vein, my dear children, even though it might have deoxygenated blood, but it contains so many important amount of nutrients such that it goes there, and what happens, the vein itself will be making capillaries. Vein is getting open to what? Capillaries, and other side again it will be opening into a vein. Again it will be opening into a vein. So usually we have artery, then capillaries, then vein, right? But here what is happening? The vein itself will be going ahead making capillaries. And why make capillaries? Because you have to supply, you have to give out all the important nutrients to this particular organ. Now you gave out, now do you what? Now you do what? Again you form a vein, and now this particular vein, my dear children, would be going to the heart. They will be joining a vena cava and everything like that. So whatever, they are acting like a portal system. They are basically transferring some important stuff while doing their job as well. I hope you got it. So this is known as hepatic portal system. Okay, this vein that carries to the organ, my dear children, that is your liver, you call this as hepatic portal vein. And this vein that carries away from the liver, it is known as just hepatic vein. Hepatic means basically liver cells are known as hepatocytes. So everything associated with the liver will be known as hepatic. Okay. So this is known as just hepatic vein. This will be known as hepatic portal vein because it is transferring what? The nutrients. I hope you got it. So hepatic portal system, that is in liver, it is there for detoxifying, also for detoxifying and for nutrient processing. So hepatic portal vein carries the nutrient-rich blood from the digestive tract to the liver before entering what? The systemic circulation. What do you mean by systemic circulation? From the body to back to the heart. I hope you got it. Yes, works. Cool. This is hepatic portal system. Just like that, you have so many other portal system also. There is renal portal system also. Okay, renal portal system collects the blood from the hind limb and provides it to the kidney first, and then takes it to the what do you call it as the heart. Okay, why is it that so? Can you check? Can you do that? Check and tell me. Well, it is not coming in KCET. Just for your information, I am telling you. You can check that. Why do you think that from the hind limb you need to transfer things to the kidney first and then to basically the heart? What is the use of renal portal system? You can check that. So in your book, you just have two things. One is hepatic portal system, and there is coronary circulation as well. What do you mean by coronary circulation? So you know there is aorta. Okay, there is aorta which will be transferring blood to different parts of your body. But what about the poor heart? The poor heart also is made up of cells, my dear children. They are also made up of cells. They also need oxygen. Even though they are pumping oxygen, at that point of time they are not taking in oxygen. So there should be a separate system for making them receive oxygen and things like that. You get it? So for that, what we have coronary arteries. Okay. Coronary arteries. So coronary arteries are the one that would be providing oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscles. So the aorta which is there, it will be dividing itself into different branches later on, my dear children. One such branch of artery will be known as coronary arteries. Coronary arteries, my dear children, which will be providing oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle cells. Okay, heart muscle cells. Coronary veins remove what? Deoxygenated blood, and it joins the vena cava and things like that. Okay, so coronary arteries basically supply and coronary veins, they remove what? The deoxygenated blood as well. That is coronary circulation. Will you be able to remember it? I hope you will be able to remember it. So this is the representation of that itself. So you have an arterial system. So artery, arteriole, then you have capillary bed and things like that. Then you have the vein, venule. Over here you have the organ, that is liver. Again the vein will be breaking down to capillaries, again a venule, and then vein, and then the venous circulation. Venous circulation means you're talking about the transport via the veins. That's all. Okay, cool. So this is also completed. Now we have regulation of cardiac activity. 2 more topics are left, then we are done. This is the second last topic that we are having. Okay, there is nothing much for you to, let's say, use your brain in. It's very easy for you to remember. It will be easy for you to remember. Let's start this off. So how is the heart regulated, my dear children? I hope until now you might be knowing that basically your heart is something that does not need external things to work. Okay, so what do you call this type of heart? You call this as myogenic heart. Okay, so it can regulate its own activity. It can regulate its own activity, which is why it is known as myogenic heart. Why or how can it regulate? Basically, it has the nodal tissues, that is that SA node, AV node and things like that. Okay, the SA node, AV node, they are nothing but the nodal tissues. Their cells, they come together to form what tissue? So they are nodal tissues, which makes the heart myogenic heart. Now, however, autonomic nervous system and hormones also influence the heart function. It's not like it's totally independent. There will be some role of the nervous system also, my dear children. So there is autonomic nervous system and the hormones, which plays a major role in what the heart's function. So first thing, the heart beats automatically due to specialized nodal system. I told you that generates electrical impulses. Okay, that is how it works. So nodal tissues generate electrical impulses, they contract and they send things. This makes the heart myogenic. Now if we talk about the neural control, autonomic nervous system, how does it work? So neural central in the medulla oblongata, medulla oblongata is over here, my dear children. It can moderate the heart activity via the autonomic nervous system. So where is the neural center? First of all, you should be knowing that neural center is there in the medulla oblongata. This is the one that will be basically be responsible for the rate of the heartbeat and everything up there. For the heart activity, medulla oblongata, oblongata. Okay, now it basically controls the activity via the autonomic nervous system, which is a part of the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so I hope you know that there is central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system means your brain and your spinal cord. Everything that arises from it comes up to be a part of what? Peripheral nervous system. In peripheral nervous system, you have autonomic nervous system, and then the other one, which is controlling the voluntary action. Okay, so autonomic nervous system controls the involuntary action, something that is not under your control, my dear children. So again, the autonomic nervous system can be divided into 2 things: sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so sympathetic nervous system gets activated. When it gets activated, it increases your heart rate, it enhances the ventricular contraction strength and boosts up the cardiac activity. When you say that heart rate is increased, basically that means your ventricular contraction will be increased, more amount of blood will be released, cardiac activity will be obviously, output will be more. Okay, more amount of blood will be there. Now parasympathetic nervous system is activated when you are in resting and digesting phase. It slows down the heart rate, reduces the conduction speed, lowers down the cardiac output. Okay, lowers down the cardiac output. So autonomic system controls your heart in 2 different ways. One, via the sympathetic nervous system. Second, via the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, how does the brain know that which one should be active? So it's under hormonal control, my dear children. So adrenal medullary hormone, my dear children, which is known as adrenaline and noradrenaline, they are the ones that would be giving the signals, which is why they would be doing their action as such. So if there is release of adrenaline and noradrenaline, my dear children, our body will be shifting to the sympathetic nervous system phase. Okay, so which is why adrenaline or noradrenaline is basically what? Fight or flight hormone. They will be making our body fight or basically run away. You get it? At this point of time, they will give signal and sympathetic nervous system will be active, increases your heart rate and enhances ventricular contraction, such that all parts of your body will be having enough amount of oxygen to create more energy to run or fight. You get it? I hope you got it. Okay, so it boosts up the cardiac output. So you have to relate it and also it's contradictory. You have to relate and also learn it separately. So first thing, usually we say that your heart is what? Myogenic. Why? Because it can control its own activity. Why? Because it has nodal tissues which sends electrical impulses. Now, it also is said that basically heart somehow it is under the control of autonomic nervous system as well. So, autonomic nervous system is the one that controls all the involuntary actions of our body, something that is not in our control. Okay. So, autonomic nervous system and also the hormonal system plays a very important role in the activity of the heart. So, it starts off by medulla oblongata. So, medulla oblongata basically has a neural center which basically sends its signal via the autonomic nervous system. Okay, we have two. There is sympathetic nervous system and there is parasympathetic nervous system. If you want to slow down, you will activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which will slow down the heart rate, reduce the conduction rate and also lower down the cardiac output. Okay. On the other hand, if sympathetic nervous system is activated, my dear children, what will happen? Your heart rate and everything will increase. Similarly, ventricular systole will be happening and also cardiac output will be more. It is under hormonal control. Which hormones, my dear children? Adrenaline and noradrenaline. They are basically the hormones released by adrenal glands. Okay, adrenal glands above your kidney, you have adrenal glands, a pair of glands. They are the ones that releases this. They are fight or flight hormones, which sends a signal that yeah, you have to do this, you have to do that, and things like that. So all of this, they affect the cardiac activity, my dear children. So in general, this is enough. In general, the myogenic heart with nodal tissue is enough. But at situations, obviously, other things also gets activated. Cool? Works? Cool. Now, last part of this particular chapter, disorders of the circulatory system. Okay, first disorder is high BP. We say my BP is very high, my BP is very high. What do you call this condition as? Hypertension. Okay, hypertension, not because you are tensed, but because your body is also under tension. What happens is that the heart pumps the blood to the arteries. At this point of time, the heart is under tension, so it pumps really hard such that basically the blood pressure on the walls of the arteries, it is way too much. So the blood pressure on the walls of the arteries is known as, okay, the pressure of the blood on the walls of the arteries, or basically the blood vessels, is known as the blood pressure. So when we say there is an increase in blood pressure, that means what? The pressure is really high over here. So the usual rate of blood pressure is what? 120 by 80 mm of Hg, mercury. Okay, 120 by 80 mm. Please remember it. 120 by 80 mm of mercury. Okay, 120 denotes the systolic rate. Okay, during ventricular systole, what is the pressure? It is 120 mmHg. Okay, during the ventricular diastole, what should be the pressure? It's 80. It's almost 80 mm of Hg, that is the pressure. So this is systole. So obviously systole pressure will be more than diastole. Systole of what? Systole of what, my dear children? Systole of the ventricles. The ventricles are going to undergo systole, which is why they are going to put pressure on the blood. No, it is going to put pressure then only, no, to the blood vessels, when the ventricles are going to undergo systole. So this is ventricular systole rate, that is 120 mm of Hg. The other one, 80 mm of Hg, is the diastolic rate of ventricles. Okay, now this is the normal blood pressure. But when it goes like 140 by 90 mm of Hg or more, this particular thing indicates hypertension. In your NCERT, it is mentioned 140 by 90. So it was 120 by 80, but now it is what? 140 by 90 mm of Hg, or even higher, it will indicate hypertension. It will be indicating hypertension. So it is not like 130 and something like that. No. 140 by 90 according to your NCERT. Okay, according to your NCERT. So 130 and everything can happen. Fluctuation can happen between your body medication. But persistently, if you are seeing that 140 by 90 or even more is there, that means you are having hypertension. Now what can it lead to? It can lead to heart disease, also kidney damage, and also the brain issues, because all of them are related. All of them are related, because you are basically heart disease is because your heart is pumping really hard, my dear children. It is putting lots of pressure. So obviously the walls of the heart will be damaged. Also the blood vessels which are there, they will be damaged. So there are a lot of issues around it. The kidney and the brain issues are also there. Please remember it. Okay. So heart disease, kidney damage, and brain issues. Heart, kidney, and brain. Heart, kidney, brain. Heart, kidney, and brain. Okay, kidney is backside. So heart, kidney, and brain. Remember that. Okay. Now you do the step again and again, you will remember it. So this has become more of a dance class rather than a biology class, but yes, you have to do this. Now there is coronary artery disease. Coronary artery, the one that carries oxygenated blood to the heart. Okay. So coronary artery disease is also known as atherosclerosis. Okay, atherosclerosis. What happens over here? It affects the arteries supplying blood to the heart. Now you only tell. Isn't it a problem? The one that supplies blood to the heart, if it is damaged, my dear children, obviously it is a problem. Yes, it affects artery supply blood to the heart caused by fat, cholesterol, calcium and fibrous deposits narrowing the arteries. So everything is deposited over here. What is happening over here, my dear children? All the things that should not be there are getting deposited over here. So the cholesterol, the things, everything is deposited over here. What is the amount of, what's the area for your blood to flow? Only this much. Only what? This much. So it reduces the blood flow, increasing what? Heart disease risk. It will increase what? The risk of heart disease. Directly it is not going to affect, but slowly it will, because your blood, your heart is getting limited supply of blood. Okay, so slowly it will increase the risk of heart diseases as well. And everyone, even of my age people, even I, okay, lot of us have this particular thing. Why? Because of a lifestyle where we intake a lot of outside food which will be rich in bad fat. Okay, bad fat, bad cholesterol. There is good cholesterol, there is bad cholesterol. So which is why we should be really careful. You know, nowadays young people are dying. Anytime, you, me, anyone can die. You get it? So basically it's because of our habits that we have generated. So we should be exercising, even though I say, even I cannot find time to do exercise. But it is generally recommended that we should be doing exercise. I at least request you to exercise, my dear children, because it is really, really important. And my exercise is this. I consider this to be my exercise, but I should also be exercising. Remember, Jasmine, I should be. Yes. So basically, yes, it's because of the deposition of all this thing that we get this particular disease, that is coronary artery disease, that is also known as atherosclerosis. Okay, now going ahead, we have angina. Okay, angina or angina. Okay, so basically angina pectoris is the name. So what do you mean by that? It is a severe chest pain that occurs due to what? Low oxygen supply to the heart. It's a way of heart crying. It's our heart's way of what? Crying out, because it is getting what? Low oxygen supply. Can I say because of this I can get angina? Okay, it's not known as angina actually. You have a particular pronunciation for it, angina. Yes, I don't remember exactly. Okay, so it is common in middle-aged and elderly individual, but often it is caused by what? Reduced blood flow in the coronary arteries. As I told you, this might lead to what? Angina that you have over here. So obviously it is due to what? Low oxygen supply of the heart. Remember, these two are related. Low oxygen, this causes the low oxygen supply, and because of low oxygen supply you will get a severe chest pain, my dear children. This is known as angina or angina. Okay. Cool. I'll come up with the correct pronunciation. So let me see it now itself. I don't want to confuse you. The actual pronunciation, angina. Yeah, that's how you say it. Okay, so that could be different in different thing, but still. Okay. So yeah, almost similar. Now going ahead with one more thing. So over here, high blood pressure, 140 by 90 or above is hypertension. Please remember that. It can lead to heart, kidney and also brain issues. Yeah, and now over here you have heart failure. What do you mean by heart failure? Ma'am, she ditched me or he ditched me. My heart is failed. It's not like that. Okay, this heart failure is totally different. So heart failure occurs when the heart cannot pump blood efficiently. Okay, it is not able to pump the blood efficiently to meet the body's need. It is also known as congestive heart failure because it often leads to what? Fluid buildup in the lungs, causing the congestion. So over here your heart is not able to pump. It is pumping. Please understand, it is pumping, but it is not pumping the blood efficiently. Probably it might have been caused because of recurrent high blood pressure. Your heart might be constantly doing all this work, but now it is tired. Okay, now it is tired, so it is not efficiently. The term efficiently is really important. It cannot pump the blood efficiently to meet what the body's need. Still pumping, but not efficiently. And it leads to what? Congestion. Why, my dear children? Because there is a fluid buildup in the lungs, which is why you also call this as congestive heart failure. Remember, it is not same as cardiac arrest or heart attack. What do you mean by cardiac arrest? When the heart completely stops beating, completely lost. So heart failure in a complete sense, when it happens, you call this as cardiac arrest. Okay, now heart attack is when the heart muscles is damaged due to blocked blood supply. Again, the coronary artery disease, I don't know why I call it heart disease, coronary artery disease, okay, which leads to build up, will be leading to angina, chest pain, yeah, because there is low oxygen supply. And later on, because of this low oxygen supply, what is happening? The heart muscle cells are not there, they are getting damaged. And when they are getting damaged, my dear children, what will happen? Will they work? Will they work? No. And you'll get what? Heart attack. When the heart muscles is damaged due to blocked blood supply. So when your heart muscle cells are not getting enough oxygen and then getting damaged, which is why it won't be doing any work, it is known as heart attack. Okay? So heart failure, when it cannot pump the blood efficiently, it is still doing but not efficiently. It is also known as congestive heart failure because it often leads to fluid buildup in the lungs. Okay, cardiac arrest, when it completely stops. Okay, when the heart completely stops, beating. Heart attack is caused when your blood, your muscle cells of your heart are not getting enough supply of oxygen, which is why they are getting damaged. Okay, when the heart muscles is damaged due to blocked blood supply, leading to what? Something that is known as heart attack. It can be due to what? Coronary artery disease. Now, coronary artery disease is very difficult to identify. It takes a lot of time for this build up to happen. Since long, probably from long age, this might be there. All of a sudden, it might be showing off its symptom. Okay, so for heart failure, the symptoms include shortness of breath, fatigue and swelling in the legs. Okay, there will be shortness of breath. Basically, your heart is not pumping enough amount of blood. So obviously, your cells are not receiving enough amount of oxygen, which is why they will be craving for it, which is why you get shortness of breath. There will be fatigue again, there is low oxygen supply. That means no energy. So fatigue will be there, and there will be swelling in the legs as well because of the buildup of fluid and things like that. So these are the things that you should be remembering for heart failure. Okay, I hope it's clear. I hope it's clear. I try to explain you as much as it is there in the NCERT, not going beyond it because it will be NEET level. I do not want you to get confused because as of now we are focusing on what? KCET. So I hope this is clear. Please relate and learn. This causes this and also heart attack. Okay, and cardiac arrest could also be happening. So later on, so everything is related. You just have to remember the terms and why does it happen and things like that. Cool. With that, we complete body fluids and circulation. Do let me know if you have any doubts. I'm here to solve away your doubts. And also, if you like this video, definitely do let me know that also in the comment section. And answer the questions that I have for you in the comment section. That is why we kept a class like this. So yeah, it should be interactive. So that's all. Wishing you all luck, my dear children. Have a really good day. Subscribe to our channel. Definitely do not forget to like and share it with your friends who are in need. Yeah, take care. Bye-bye. And one very important thing before bye-bye. Have you already taken the Abhyas KCET test series? If you have not, then definitely you should. So this is where I teach the chapter. But obviously, you need to practice the questions. We would be doing the top 30 questions over here. But if you are more oriented to KCET, my dear children, I will request you to undergo rapid test series as well. Rapid mock test. You should be giving it because it is equally important to understand where do you stand. Okay, so there will be random questions, not for the previous year question, but random questions coming here and there, framed by the best faculties out there for KCET. They have framed the question papers and they have put it. So please make sure you are registering yourself for Abhyas KCET test series. The amount for the test series is rupees 1498, something like that. Yeah. So definitely it's something that I think most of us can afford. Okay, most of us can afford. The people who cannot afford, it's totally fine. You have us in the YouTube. We are trying a lot for you guys as well. But still, if you can afford, go for Abhyas KCET test series and have a quick mock test. Any mock test, it won't be obviously free of cost. Somewhere it will be because there are so many people working behind it. You get it? So obviously, with due respect to them, we should be paying wherever it is needed. So please do that payment and make sure that you are taking the utilization of this. Yes, so that's all. The link will be given somewhere in the comments, description box. Check it out.